The Street Files. A complete mystery short story every Wednesday. File 18. Secret at the Old Airfield. The River Test rises in English chalk near the village of Ash and flows south past Stockbridge, Mottisford and Romsey, before mixing with the sea at Southampton. On a sunny July day in 1853, the railway tycoon George Tattersall had been brought to a cornfield on the highest peak of the Test River Valley, with the best views of the rolling farmland and the river below. He had decided there and then, on that site, to build a family home for his 12 children, which he called Holham Down Grange. Olivia Street had received an email from Rebecca Tattersall 2 weeks ago, asking for help to sort out her father's library of papers that he'd left scattered in the drawers and cupboards of his study at Holham Down Grange when he died a month ago, after a telephone call with the woman that had revealed there are several hundred documents. Olivia had called her daughter Poppy and asked her to pack an overnight bag to come and help sift through the past and bring some order to the Tattersall family's future. When Olivia's red MG Midget pulls off the road and starts the long journey up the curving driveway, an avenue of birch trees along both sides of the road initially hides the house from view. As they emerge from the tree line, they can see the wide flint and brick frontage of the house for the first time. It has sweeping lawns either side that run off to trees 100 metres away, a formal garden of topiary near the house, and a rippling blue lake down the hill in the distance. Poppy can't help saying, "Wow, it's enormous." There's no one in sight when they step out, and the only sound is the birds in the trees around them. A scraping of wood on stone announces the front door opening, and a woman in her 50s walks towards them with a smile on her lips. She has penetrating brown eyes and brunette hair tied at the back with a tortoiseshell clip. "Olivia, I'm Rebecca," she says, and she holds out her hand. "This is Poppy, my daughter." The woman shakes both of their hands. Before they can say anything else, a man with blue eyes and fair hair walks out of the front door. He's wearing a business suit and doesn't acknowledge anyone else before he turns to walk to a black Volvo XC90. "Jack?" calls Rebecca, and he stops, turns, frowns, then walks back to them. "This is the lawyer who's helping us with Daddy's papers." Olivia smiles, but he doesn't. "This is my husband." Olivia shakes his hand, but he ignores Poppy. "The old boy left it in a complete mess," says Jack. "We'll have to move out of here unless you can find a few million stashed up the chimney." "You looked at the papers, didn't you?" says Rebecca to him. "Can you go through anything useful for Olivia?" "I'm late already," he says. "If you're good, you'll find it all out sooner rather than later." He's curt, and there's only hardness in his eyes. He doesn't say goodbye, but turns again to his car, and the gravel is thrown up by his wheels when he accelerates down the driveway to the lane. "Shall we walk to the lake while it's sunny?" says Rebecca, and the group start a slow pace downhill over the grass. "Let me tell you about the background. I'm the 7th generation of Tattersall to live here. My 4 times great-grandfather was George, who built it." "The train engineer," says Olivia, and Rebecca nods. "The eldest sons of subsequent generations inherited the estate. There were occasional daughters and younger sons in some generations, but they all just had trust funds set up to live off. The eldest sons got this place to look after." She waves her hand generally in the air, to the house and grounds. "Wine time forward to my father, William,
who died recently and whose papers you're here to decipher. Daddy was born in 1941 and inherited the estate when he was only a month old because my grandfather was killed in France during the war. It was a tragic echo of my great-grandfather's death in 1917 during the First World War. I was the only child, so I inherited the estate.
What's the most important thing you want from us?
Daddy's papers are a mess. I've only read some of them. There are deeds and contracts and financial arrangements somewhere that he set up in his lifetime. There'll be things from years ago, too. He wasn't a tidy man. His great love was cars. He had little time for the small things in life like filing. Or people, for that matter.
She laughs without passion, and they smile with her.
Here's Teddy,
she says, and they look in the direction that she is looking. He's slightly older than Poppy and has nearly black messy hair and blue eyes.
I'm taking the Morgan, Ma,
he says.
Don't speed, Teddy, like your grandfather used to. This is Olivia and Poppy. They're helping tidy up his paperwork. Good luck with that,
he says, smiling at Poppy.
He kept most of it on the floor in big piles as far as I can see.
Poppy smiles back before he turns away. As he walks to a garage block on one side of the house, he holds up a silent hand in the air as a lazy wave.
There's one other thing,
says Rebecca.
I received a phone call from a man called Sebastian Gunn, who has some wild idea that he has a claim on the estate. Could you talk to him, Olivia, and lay his unfounded aspirations to rest?
Did he give any rationale? She says.
He just ranted and was rather threatening. I left a note of his phone number in Daddy's study for you. Don't tell my husband about that.
Of course, says Olivia.
Could I ask why? He gets angry. He had a poor childhood, and I plucked him out of that life and gave him all of this. He's insecure about losing it. He doesn't want to go backwards, but we'll have to sell. Daddy didn't leave cash, just the house, so it has to go. I can't afford to keep it going. Teddy will be all right. We set him up with a £2 million trust fund on his 18th birthday. The house will make a lovely hotel, I'm sure. Jack and I will get something smaller.
You're not concerned with changes to your lifestyle? Says Olivia.
Daddy taught me to be grateful for anything. Despite our wealth, I was brought up to be a survivor. No matter what life throws at you.
The women reach the lake and talk generally about the house and grounds. Then Olivia is starting to want to get to work. So Rebecca takes them to the house and shows them the study.
I'll ask Samantha to bring some tea and sandwiches,
says Rebecca.
She's my saviour, cook, and the only member of the staff left now.
She turns to go, then stops.
There was a delivery for you, Olivia, yesterday. It's in the storage rooms behind the kitchens.
She looks quizzical.
A large parcel?
That's 100 box files to bring some order to your father's affairs. Rebecca smiles.
I'll leave you to it,
she says, and walks out. Olivia turns to her daughter. Right, Poppy, first step is to pick everything up off the floor. We can use the desk to pile it up. Can you collect the box files from downstairs, and we'll start sorting. Poppy walks back down and gets lost in the complex web of corridors and rooms at the rear of the mansion. But eventually she finds a 30-foot-long kitchen of commercial stainless steel units. Halfway down, making a cake, is a tall and thin, blonde woman in her late 20s, with beautiful sapphire eyes and a calm demeanour.
Are you Samantha?
The woman nods.
I'm Poppy. We're sorting the papers upstairs. Was there a big parcel for my mum, Olivia Street? Yes, it's out the back.
Samantha beckons her, and they go to a long, cold corridor, where there's a large, square, brown paper-wrapped package. The women break it open and start to take the box files upstairs. When they return to the kitchen for the last time, Poppy says,
How long have you worked here? 10 years. You must have been young. 16? Mrs. Tattersall said you're the best. That's why you're still here. They're selling the place, though, is that right? Jack doesn't want to. Her husband, says Poppy, and Samantha nods. They've got no choice, though, have they? Mrs. Tattersall said her dad left no cash, so the house will have to go on the market. That's not all settled. She seems frosty, suddenly. What are they like, the two of them? I like him, he's kind. She's grown up rich, so doesn't really understand the way people work. She just thinks it'll all fall into her lap. She seemed nice earlier, says Poppy. As a front. Did you meet him? Yeah, the husband seemed a bit distant. He's not. If they split up, I know where I'd go. Are they splitting up, then? They've got a son, haven't they? Yes, Teddy fancies me, says Samantha. Is it mutual? I like the dad more, actually. More grown up, you know.
Rebecca's voice, calling from the corridor, crashes the moment.
Samantha, could we arrange some tea and sandwiches?
Poppy makes a closed-mouth smile to the cook and hurries back upstairs. Olivia and her daughter work through the documentation over the course of the next couple of hours. They sort it into 4 sections: contracts, bank accounts, historical, and cars. By lunchtime, there are 4 sets of 20 box files piled up in the 4 corners of the room, and they stop briefly for another of Samantha's cold buffets. Let's keep going, says Olivia. I'll take contracts and bank accounts, Poppy. If you can do the historical ones and the car stuff.
What's the aim, Mum?
To weed out the interesting but irrelevant from the valuable.
Don't forget to call that bloke who thinks he's got a claim on the estate,
says the daughter. Olivia finds the number and rings Sebastian Gunn, who says he will come over to talk this afternoon. Poppy finds a set of birth certificates in her box files, and she sorts them all out in date order to give her mind a framework of the family and the people who have inhabited this house over the years. In the middle of the afternoon, Olivia is looking through a financial ledger from 1920 when she sees a payment made to a woman called Sophie Lee. This payment is for £1,000, Poppy, she says. It doesn't say what it's for. £1,000 in 1920 was a huge sum of money.
Maybe Rebecca knows,
says the daughter. Samantha comes in and says that Mr. Gunn has arrived to see Olivia, so she follows the woman down to the hallway. Sebastian Gunn has neat salt and pepper hair and dark grey eyes, which constantly move. Olivia guesses he's in his early 60s. Let's go and sit in the dining room, Mr. Gunn, she says. They walk into a long mahogany-lined room with a table that can seat 16, stretching to stained glass windows at the far end that overlook the driveway. They sit on 2 of the chairs. I'm a lawyer representing Mrs. Tattersall. She's adopted the family name, has she? Her married name's Weeks. Have you met the rather absent Jack Weeks? Olivia ignores all of that and says, How can I help? I'm the great-grandson of Daniel Tattersall, he says. And I'm the heir to the whole estate. No, Daniel's son was Michael, born in 1917. Born in December 1917, says Gunn. My grandfather, Lawrence, was born in the summer of 1917, to a woman who worked at the old Airfield down the road. Illegitimate children were not recognized in those days. It's all different now. Do you have any documentation? She says. I'll get copies tomorrow and bring them to you, but I do know that the trustees paid my mother to keep quiet. What was her name? My grandmother's married name was Sophie Gunn. As a decent man, Albert Gunn agreed to take in my illegitimate grandfather as his own. And what was her maiden name? Says Olivia. Sophie Lee, he says. Olivia gives nothing away on her face. I need to go, he says. I'll ensure you get the paperwork in the morning. Gunn shakes her hand, and she watches him walk away, across the gravel, to his car. At 4:30, Rebecca appears in the doorway of the study.
I've asked Samantha to make up rooms for both of you tonight.
Thank you.
Drinks at 6 in the lounge, she says.
When they've finished for the day, Olivia and Poppy collect their bags from the MG and change for dinner. Poppy messages her mother when she's ready, and they walk down the large curved staircase and into the lounge. Rebecca hasn't arrived yet, but after less than a minute, her son, Teddy, walks in, and he addresses Poppy.
Ma says you're staying for the night. Want to go for a spin in the Morgan? We'll be back before dinner.
Olivia and Poppy exchange a glance.
Sure, cool,
says Poppy.
This way, mademoiselle,
he says, and raises his hand towards the doorway.
See you later, Mum.
Have you got your phone? Says Olivia, and Poppy nods as she follows the boy out. Rebecca walks in. Your son has taken my daughter out for a drive.
He's a sensible boy, really,
says Rebecca.
He just pretends to be brash.
She pours them both a glass of Sauvignon.
So what are your conclusions from your trawl through my father's life so far?
Your family never throws anything away. She smiles, and so does Rebecca. Most of the contractual papers are fairly straightforward. There's a dated sequence of deeds and wills of 4 generations, from George to Daniel, your great-grandfather, who died in the First World War in 1917. Then it gets messy.
How do you mean?
Says Rebecca. A large payment in 1920 to a woman by the trustees is unexplained. But Sebastian Gunn has an explanation. He claims that the woman was paid to keep quiet about an illegitimate child, and that's the root of his claim to the estate.
It's nonsense,
says Rebecca.
He's just a con man, surely.
The light has faded from the sky as Teddy spins the wheel of the green Morgan Plus 8 around the corner of a lane, and the wheels slide on loose gravel before he pushes on along the next, nearly identical country lane. Poppy and the boy don't talk as they speed through the evening air. Teddy suddenly slows and takes a narrower track away from the road. After a minute, the route ends at an open gateway, and they continue out onto a flat field that has a gaggle of dark, low buildings grouped together at its centre. He stops the car near the buildings and jumps over the door.
Where are we?
Says Poppy.
The old Airfield. I come up here a lot. I've bought beers.
He rummages about in the boot of the car and pulls out 2 bottles and an opener.
Come on, I'll show you around,
he says, and they walk to the first of the abandoned huts.
I rigged up the lights. They still work.
He puts his hand into an old cupboard and pulls at an old iron switch bolted to the back wall. The buildings are instantly flooded with bright yellow arc lamps that create a pool of light across the buildings and the old, damaged runway.
There was stuff about this airfield in your granddad's paperwork,
says Poppy.
But that was years ago. When did they stop using it?
He told me he used to come up here in the 60s, says Teddy.
It was only a storage depot by then. There haven't been planes up here for 100 years.
They walk around the plot and inspect the broken windows, the damaged doors, and empty interiors of the huts that had once housed ground crew pilots and engineers. Poppy walks to a hut with a sign above the door that says, "Officers Only." She pulls at the door handle and can't help gasping in the night air. On the floor of the hut is a man.
It's some old bloke,
she says. Neither her nor Teddy move at first, as they look in through the doorway.
What's he doing here?
Poppy steps inside and across to the man. She crouches down.
My mum feels for a pulse on the neck,
she says, and puts her fingers in 2 or 3 places on the man's skin. Then looks at Teddy and shakes her head.
I can't feel anything.
We should get out of here, he says. Poppy ignores him and pulls out her phone to call her mother. Poppy and Teddy wait by the Morgan for their mothers, and eventually the lights of the MG turn off the road and bob along the track to the airfield. Show me what you found, Poppy, says Olivia, and they all walk back to the hut where the body is lying. As soon as Olivia walks in, she says, It's Sebastian Gunn.
The man you met this afternoon, Mum.
I'll call the police, says Olivia. Half an hour later, the blue lights of 2 police cars from the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary are flashing across the land and the huts of Lopcombe Airfield. Police officers cordon off the area, take statements, and call forensics to start their investigation. By 8 p.m, Olivia and Poppy are sitting in what had been the canteen in the airfield.
Who do you think killed Mr. Gunn, Mum?
Says Poppy.
Is it connected to his claim about inheritance?
We don't know until we know more. He could have been a con man, as Rebecca said, and maybe a co-conspirator argued with him and it got violent. There are lots of possibilities.
Do we know how he died?
Says Poppy. Stabbed with a long-bladed instrument. Suddenly the door bursts open 50 feet away, and Jack storms in.
Where's my wife?
He says.
And what is she doing up here in this place? I only found out when Samantha messaged me and said no one was at home.
Your son took my daughter here for a drive, Mr. Weeks, and he brought her up here, says Olivia.
I told him before this place is dangerous. You never know who's going to be hanging about in these old huts, says Jack. Now I'm stuck here too. The police won't let me leave until they've finished something or other. It's nothing to do with me.
His phone ringtone sounds from his jacket pocket, and his face continues to be annoyed as he pulls it out to see the screen. He doesn't say anything, but turns and walks back out to take the call.
I'm going to eavesdrop, Mum,
whispers Poppy, and she hurries away before Olivia can respond. The teenager crashes out of the opposite side of the canteen from where Jack Weeks is standing, on his phone. She runs quietly to the corner of the building, until she can hear his voice.
It'll be fine,
he says.
They won't trace it to you.
There's a pause as he listens.
Don't worry, we'll get it all.
He listens again.
I need to go. I'll see you later. Love you, Samantha.
He pulls the phone away from his ear, then walks off to find his wife. Poppy goes back inside the canteen.
I'm 99% certain that Jack is sleeping with Samantha, the cook, she says. They could have killed Mr. Gunn. If she overheard him talking to you when you met him, she was super complimentary about Jack earlier, and she was slagging off Rebecca. So that got me thinking. Then just now on the phone he confirmed it.
OK, so that's one line of our inquiry, says Olivia. Now let's think about who else had a motive to kill Sebastian Gunn.
Rebecca, definitely. Gunn was trying to take her fortune.
Who else? Poppy looks at the ceiling as she thinks.
Teddy had motive,
she says.
Same reasons as his parents.
He had a trust fund with $2 million in it, so he's protected. It makes the others more likely to be killers. Let's think more about your Jack idea, says Olivia. He wasn't born rich. He married into it. Rebecca said he's more motivated to stay rich now and not slip back to how he was earlier in his life.
I sorted out all the birth certificates in my boxes, and there wasn't one for Jack.
We can find that. They're all online these days, says Olivia. She pulls out her phone and searches for birth certificate records. Olivia types and swipes. Here's the record. Jack Weeks. Ah, but he changed his name, she says. And Olivia searches further. Jack Weeks was not the name he was born with. It was Jack Gunn. That's it, Poppy.
What's it?
The events. The puzzle. It makes sense to me now. We should go and talk to the police. They walk over to the police, and Olivia asks them to accompany her to talk to Jack. When they all reach the man, Olivia says, Sergeant, the dead man is Sebastian Gunn. He had, I believe, a legitimate claim to the family estate because Michael Tattershaw was the second son of Daniel. The first son was an illegitimate child who was fathered here in these huts when it was a Royal Flying Corps airfield in 1917. After the war, the mother, Sophie Lee, married a Mr. Gunn. They brought up the illegitimate son, who went on to have a child of his own, called Jack. And Jack Gunn changed his name as a young man to Jack Weeks. And he's the man standing here in front of us. I believe that Jack targeted Rebecca Tattershaw romantically, so he could rejoin the family by marriage. A family who had bribed his grandmother to keep the truth hidden. From the road, the sound of a car drifts up, and headlights cut across the darkness until the vehicle arrives in the pool of light, and Samantha, the cook, steps out. She walks over to where the group are talking as Olivia is speaking, when a con man who called himself Sebastian Gunn threatened to take everything away. It was too much for Jack. His life's project would be destroyed, so he invited Gunn to come up here to the airfield, to end a life where a life was created 100 years ago, in some sort of poetic justice.
He didn't do it, says Samantha. You have no evidence. All of that is rubbish. You're just trying to steal Jack's money.
Jack looks at Samantha, then back to Olivia. The story's true about my background, he says. I am Daniel's grandson, and I did marry into the family to reclaim my birthright. But that's not illegal. My name really is Jack Weeks now. Yes, I'm guilty of not telling my wife everything. But I've never heard of this man called Sebastian Gunn.
Jack, be quiet. They'll think you did it.
Samantha is getting more frustrated.
What about us? What about our future?
I'm standing by Rebecca, Samantha. We'll make sure you get a good payoff when we sell the house. He turns to Olivia again. It's a tragedy about this con man dying, however. I'll help in any way I can.
Jack!
Samantha is shouting now.
I only did it for us. He deserved to die. He was taking our money.
Everyone is quiet. Then Olivia says, How did you know about Sebastian Gunn, Samantha?
I had him talking to you in the dining room, saying his craziest stuff about his inheritance. It was all lies, but people would have believed him. He was going to ruin everything.
And how did you both end up here? At the airfield?
I emailed him on Rebecca's email, saying I wanted to do a deal and pay him off. He only wanted money. I knew he'd agree to meet. The easy bit was hiding in the shadows and waiting for him to walk into the hut. But when I talked to him, he just ranted and grabbed me. I'd taken a kitchen knife for my protection. But before I knew it, it was in his stomach, and there was blood on my hands.
As Samantha is led away by the police, Jack, Olivia and Poppy walk across the pool of light to where Rebecca and Teddy have been keeping warm inside one of the huts.
Why was Samantha being taken away?
Says Rebecca. I'll tell you everything back at the house. But it all started and ended here. in this airfield.
What did?
Says Rebecca. It's a long story, he says. Let's go and eat. The Street Files. A complete mystery short story every Wednesday.